Welcome to the jcozy studio. My name is Jessica Stickney, co-owner of jcozy. Here at jcozy, we are an owner-operated business where we create all-natural skincare and handcrafted candles. Today, I'm going to show you how we make our candles. I'm going to be using the fragrance oil Arctic Ivy. This one is from Candle Science. Arctic Ivy is going to be our fragrance of the month for the month of January, and we'll only be selling products with Arctic Ivy only in the month of January. So you need to get over to the website and order what you can before we sell out. So on Candle Science, they have a program called the Clean Scent Program, and that's where I try to buy all of my scents from Candle Science with this logo on it. The Clean Scent Program, I'll read you directly from their website what it says that they are. The Clean Scent Plus program is our highest fragrance oil safety standard and the original inspiration for our in-house regulatory program. These fragrances are manufactured without organ toxins, acute toxins, CMRs, phthalates, and ingredients on the California Prop 65 list. CMRs are carcinogens, mutagens, and reproductive toxins that they try to steer clear of in our fragrances. We also get our soy wax from Candle Science. We use the Golden Brand's 464 soy wax. This is what it looks like. It comes in flakes. It's really easy to measure out. We like soy wax because it's all natural. We also use a cotton wick. And I'll go into more on that once I start prepping the jars for the wax. We like our candles to burn down completely even. We don't want our wicks to put off any soot or black smoke. That is another reason why we've gone with the clean scents. We've gone with the cotton wick, and we wanted to make sure that we went with the soy wax because it burns really even. That was one of my big stipulations when I started making candles, is I hated to buy a candle and that there was still wax left along the edges of the candles or the side of the candle. That drove me crazy. So one of the stipulations, we wanted our wax to burn down completely even. I also didn't want to have soot up my wall or on my ceiling from the candle or the fragrance burning off. So those were stipulations when we started to make our handcrafted candles. So let's get into what the Arctic Ivy smells like. Arctic Ivy, according to Candle Science website, the top notes are eucalyptus, bergamot, lemon, and sage. The middle notes are camphor, fig, rose, and green leaves. And the base notes are amber and musk. So this is a great scent for winter because it has that nice cooling smell when you light the candle and you start to smell the fragrance. But it also has that warmth of the musk and the amber to kind of ground it all. So let's get started on how we make these. So I've already measured out my fragrance oil here. Make sure that when you're putting fragrance oils or any essential oils that it's in a glass container and not so much of a paper cup, because sometimes the fragrance oils or the essential oils can eat through that paper cup. So you want to make sure that you always measure in a glass container. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out our wax. So I'm making 6 candles here, and I have broken that down to how to scale down or scale up your wax if you're wanting to make more or less. But today I'm going to measure this out really quickly. This is what the candle wax looks like. It is flake form. It's really easy to measure. It's really easy to melt down, and they're super thin. We over measured. Let's take some of that out. All right. Now that we have that measured, We're going to put this on a double boiler. It's not a true double boiler, so don't come for me. This is where we're going to put it in the hot water, and we're going to heat up the wax inside this container so it will melt down all nice and even. Okay, so that's going to take a minute to melt down. While that's melting, let's prep our jars. Okay, so I have my 6 jars here. I, again, like to use the cotton wicks. And these cotton wicks have been dipped in wax, in soy wax itself, so they are nice and tall and they don't flop around on you. They also are already pre-tabbed, so you don't have to worry about tabbing them. Now you can buy the wicks that are not tabbed and tab them yourself. However, I find it a little time consuming, so I just go ahead and buy them like this. And then I also have my adhesive tabs that I put on the bottom. Here are these. They look just like this. I get the wicks and the tabs from Amazon. They're so much cheaper, and they work just fine. So the way you have to do that is you have to measure your diameter of your container, the vessel that your candles are going to go in, and that is the size of the diameter of the wick that you need. So let's get these tabbed and going. And then I just center them in the dead center of the glass, as center as I can get it, and then I press down. Get it all nice and pressed down. And then I move on to the next one. All of my jars prior to tabbing and putting a wick in, I clean them out really well with alcohol swabs to make sure that it's free of dust. Make sure that there's nothing settling in the bottom of the candle. It helps the adhesive adhere better to the glass itself. I've seen some people where they'll take ceramic glue or they'll take hot glue and put it at the bottom of the jar and then attach their wick tabs to that, or their wick adhesive to that. I don't find that necessary. As long as it's really well cleaned out and it's free of any dust or any dust particles, these stick really well. So these tab adhesives that I have are bigger than my actual wick tab itself, and that's okay. It's not gonna hurt the candle or affect how it performs. So we just take that off. And we stick it directly on the bottom and try to center your wick as best as you can. They do make wick centering devices that help you to center your wick if you want to try to order that. I was okay with not ordering unless I get a smaller vessel, like a skinnier vessel, then I would decide to use one of those, but otherwise I don't need to use one of those. Okay. Put this stuff away. Now that these are all tabbed, I now like to go and put my wick stabilizers on. This helps keep the wick nice and tall and straight. Some people have done it where they pour the wax in and then they go in and then they put this on. I prefer to do it before the wax gets into the container. It helps me keep from burning myself. And just like that, it's put right on and it stabilizes the wick and keeps it right in place. I also bought these off of Amazon. You can get like 20 in a pack for like $7. I can link these down below, as well as any of the other things that I used in this video. You can see where I've used these multiple times. I've got wax everywhere. They're nice because they have 3 different slots here where you can do like a triple wick if you wanted to, or you could just do a double wick. But I'm using this center one here, and then it also has that little slot there. I don't know if you can see that, where when you slide your wick up through the middle, then you slide it over into that slot and it sort of locks it in place. Also, you know your wick is in good when you can give it a little tug and it doesn't come off. So when I'm placing these wick holders or these wick stabilizers in place and I pulled it over, I pushed down on the metal, on this metal piece here, and then I slide the wick over in place. That way it stays nice and tight. Okay. Now that that's done, we're basically just waiting for the wax to melt. You want the wax to melt to a minimum of 185, 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That way when you pull it off, you can add the fragrance oil at 180 degrees or less. 180 degrees is what Candle Science recommends adding your fragrance oil in at. And then once you've added your fragrance oil in, you're going to stir for 2 minutes. That helps to incorporate the fragrance oil with the wax. It binds it all together. However, you cannot pour your wax until it reaches between 135 degrees to 145 degrees. The reason for that is if you pour it too hot, depending on which kind of vessel you use, if you pour it too hot, it will cool quicker on the outside than it will on the inside, so it draws away from the container. Again, that doesn't affect the performance of the candle. That is more of an appearance thing. If you don't like the way sometimes that looks, it sometimes can look like a wet spot on the outside of your container. It's not a wet spot. It's just where the cooled wax has pulled away from the container toward the center of the container. Not quite melted yet. It's going to take a little while to melt. Roughly 10-15 minutes for it to melt all the way, and less time if you have less wax there, and more time if you have more wax in. So once that melts, we will see what the temperature is, and I'll show you the temperature with the temperature gun to tell you exactly what the temperature is, so we can add our fragrance in, and then we can pour. Things that you would need for making candles. Of course, you're going to need a candle vessel. You're going to need your wicks, your wick tabs, and your wick adhesive to hold it to the container. You'll need something for measuring out your fragrance oil. It needs to be a glass container. I always use a scale, preferably a scale that has grams and ounces that you can weigh it on. You'll also need, of course, your fragrance. You're going to need that, and your wax. Candle Science has a huge list of different types of wax that you can choose from, and it has reviews on each of those waxes. Also, they have a lot of fragrances that you can choose from as well. They have it broken down into seasons, so if you're wanting to pick a certain scent for that particular season, you can just go right to that category, pick it, and add it to your cart. I've been ordering scents from Candle Science for a long time now, and I have yet to be disappointed in how they behave in candles and the scent throw. There's a cold scent throw and then there's hot scent throw. The cold scent throw is obviously when the candle is not lit. so therefore it's cold. A lot of these scents that you get from candle signs have a fantastic cold scent throw, where you can leave the candle sitting in a room and it fills up that room, depending on your vessel size. Usually an 8-ounce vessel size or smaller is really good for a smaller room. And then bigger candles obviously are bigger for more open space area. The majority of their fragrances don't discolor the wax. I found that more scents with a citrusy scent in the wax, in the fragrance, will discolor the wax just slightly to maybe like an off-white, almost yellowy color. Otherwise, their fragrances are great for your candles if you're wanting to keep them white. You can always add mica coloring to your candle wax. Just be sure you get the one that's appropriate for your type of wax. Okay, so now that our candle wax has melted, it is roughly 179 degrees. So that's perfect for our, to add our fragrance in. You just slowly pour the fragrance in so you don't splash up any, hot wax on you. Get it all nice and scraped out. Okay, and then we're going to stir for roughly 2 minutes. So I'll get this stirred up and come back to you. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes. Alexa, stop. Make sure that when you're stirring this, that you are stirring in multiple directions. You're going back and forth. You're going clockwise, counterclockwise. Getting all that fragrance well incorporated. 2 minutes is the minimum time that you need to be stirring in your fragrance. You can always, of course, stir longer if you like. Try not to stir it so quickly that bubbles start to form, air bubbles start to form. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth and all well incorporated. When you have done that, we check the temperature. If the temperature is between 135 and 145, then we can pour it. If the temperature is higher than that, then we let it sit and cool until it has cooled to about 135 to 145. Now, if your temperature has gone below 135, once you've added the fragrance in, you cannot reheat it back up. If you reheat it back up, you run the chances of burning off your fragrance oil, and then there you are left without any fragrance. And when you go to light your candle, you won't smell any fragrance at all. So your best chances are to kind of stay close by it and just measure the temperature. So the temperature of this currently is, give it a good little stir here, stir it all around. And we're sitting at about 156, so that's too warm. So we will just sit and wait until it cools off. And we're looking between 135 and 145. And then we can pour it into our containers. So once your temperature has gone below 135, you cannot reheat it if the fragrance oil is in the container, because you run the chances of burning off the fragrance oil. What do you do if the temperature drops below 135? Well, you can still pour it. You may just have glass adhesion problems, depending on what kind of container you use. Will depend on if the adhesion, if the cooled wax pulls away from the glass. So that glass adhesion looks like, when you have glass adhesion problems, that looks like almost like a wet spot on the inside of the container, and it shows up on the outside. So it doesn't affect the candle itself. It just looks, it makes the appearance look a little off, but otherwise it doesn't affect the candle itself. And so if you get containers that are a solid color, or if you get containers that have that frosted look to it, you're not even going to see the glass adhesion issues. Now, sometimes I've poured candles at between 135 and 145 degrees Fahrenheit, and I still get glass adhesion problems. So I think it's just a hit or miss. Most of the time, I've tried different things. Some people say to insulate your candles to keep it from doing that. I've tried that you know, that's a hit or miss as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I try just keeping them on the counter or my table here and letting them just naturally cool off by themselves. I think it's just a preference of what you choose to do. I choose to just let them come to room temperature on their own. Sometimes they have glass adhesion problems, sometimes they don't. Most customers don't even pay attention to the glass adhesion or the wet spot look. It's more of the creator where we are like, oh my gosh, I don't really like that aesthetic look. But it's not going to affect how the product actually burns or the fragrance oil itself. So yeah, it's just a matter of preference of what you choose to do. The main things I think that you need for candle making are going to be not only the necessities to make the candles, the wax, the wick, your vessel, if you choose to have a fragrance, if you choose to put colorants within your candle. You definitely need a temperature gun. I just got this one at the local Home Depot. You're going to need some spatulas for stirring, preferably one that is silicone, and then a metal pot that has a spout on it because it makes it a little easier for pouring, and double boiler to melt your wax, and a scale to weigh. And that's it. That's it to make candles. It's really simple. And once you learn the quirks that your container has or doesn't have when it comes to glass adhesion or the pouring temperature or the amount of fragrance load that you want to have in your candle, then you're good to go. Now each fragrance on Candle Science, they have on the jar where it says the amount you can use for candles and the amount, and if it's okay to use for soaps or any other body care product. So this one says for candles, you can use a fragrance load of 3 to 10%. I usually do mine closer to the 10% because I like a really good throw. But if you don't want as strong of a scent, you're more than welcome to use a lower scent. I use the 10%. Now that 10% is based up on your total amount of wax that you have. So if you have 1,000 grams of wax, you're going to take 10% of that 1,000 grams. And that's how much fragrance you're going to need. And you can measure in ounces or you can measure in grams. I prefer to do it in grams for the wax, and then and the same for the fragrance itself. All right, let's stir and see what our temperature is on our wax. So we're at 148 degrees, so we got about 3 more degrees before we can start to pour. Once we've poured our wax, we will let them sit all night to harden. And then in the morning, I'll come back and I'll film what they look like. Sometimes with soy wax, you can get little pitfalls or little dents or in the tops of your wax. Sometimes it can have frosting, which looks like the wax has like frosting on it, like almost like from a donut. Looks like it has frosting on it. If mine have those things, I'll show you how to fix those. Those again are just aesthetic looks, but I don't like that frosting look, and I don't like the little pitfalls in the candle itself, so I'll show you how to fix those. And for that, you'll need a heat gun, and we can go over that tomorrow. Once you've liked the aesthetic of your candles, you're going to trim the wick. You'll take these wick holders off, and we'll trim the wick. For these are 8-ounce containers. They're kind of a little squatty jar, but they're 8-ounce containers. I fill them all the way up past this ridge. I don't know if you can see, I go all the way up to about right there on each of my candles. And I've weighed them out, and they typically will be right at 8 ounces. Because the neck of this, I don't want to put any wax in there. Now, sometimes I have gone up past the shoulder of this jar into that neck area if I have leftover wax or if I've mismeasured and had more wax than needed. But these are a really great way to make candles. They're super simple, and it takes just a little bit of out-of-pocket cost to make just a few candles if you like. And your vessels can be anything. They can be anything of a ceramic or glass to hold your candles. You can reuse candle vessels that you've had before. You clean them out and you can reuse those. You can use a coffee cup if you want to make a really cute candle idea for as a gift. You can use a coffee cup. But these are really great gifts. If you don't want to make your own and you want to purchase them from us, you can purchase them at jcozy.shop. And we've got plenty of candles on there, a bunch of different fragrances. I believe we have close to 30 fragrances on there that you can choose from. This Arctic Ivy is going to be just for the month of January. And we'll be doing a fragrance of the month each month this year, I'm sorry. So be on the lookout for that. So not only will we do it, we'll do this Arctic Ivy in a candle, we'll also do it in a soap and a foaming sugar scrub. And I'm debating whether or not we're going to do it in a lotion or not. We will see. Or in one of our hand bombs. So be on the lookout for that over the next few days when we post this for January. And we will only be selling it for the month of January. We've already got our fragrances lined up for the month of February and March, so be on the lookout for those as well. Okay, let's check our temperature. So we're at 142.5, so we're at a great range to pour this. So we'll get to pouring. Be careful because your container is still rather hot. But we will just go ahead and start to pour. Don't worry if your hand is not very steady. Mine isn't either. I tend to get it everywhere. I've poured it on top of the wick stabilizer. I've poured it down the side of the jar. I've poured it on the table. This wax is really easy to get up. Once it's hardened, I'd wait till it hardens, and then you can clean it right up. All right, once I get done pouring, I kind of take a step back and kind of look at the candles itself and see which one needs more. And just kind of top it off like that. See, I've got candle wax all over this table. Okay. Once you've poured, you just kind of let these sit. You're going to let them sit overnight for a good 8 hours. Now that they have, once they get hardened, you can fix the tops, which again, I'll show you that tomorrow if the tops need to be fixed from the frosting or any pits in them. And then we'll cut the wick, and then you have to let these candles cure for 2 weeks. That's the best time that the fragrance will be well incorporated. It's had time to sit and bind with all the wax. So they need to cure for 2 weeks before you can burn them. I did not know that when I first started making candles, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't having a strong scent, and it was because I wasn't letting them cure for 2 weeks. They have to cure for 2 weeks. If you liked this content and you want to see more from jcozy, please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can get all of our new content when we upload it. Thanks so much. I'll be back in the morning and we'll see how these candles turned out. Hi, so it's the next day and we are back. We have let our candles sit through the night, and we are now going to try to fix anything that is wrong with our candles on top. If there's any divots or pits, or if there's any frosting on the top, we'll fix those and I'll show you how to do that. Next, we will trim our wicks, and we'll talk about labels, and we'll get to labeling our candles. So first thing you want to do is you want to take off the candle wick holders, the stabilizers. They're really easy to do. You just take it right off. Next thing we'll do is we'll look at our candles to see if there's any pitfalls or divots that we need to fix, and we'll fix that with a heat gun. This is what I use. I ordered this one off of Amazon. I can link it below. You can get them at any of your craft stores or hardware stores as well. These are really easy to find, and it's a great handy tool to have, not only for your candles, but you can shrink wrap labels or packaging onto your other products. So this is a really great handy tool, good investment. Okay, so now let's take a look. So this particular one has just a little tiny hole right there, maybe where an air bubble had came throughout the night. That will fix that. This one has just a little bit of frosting. We'll kind of fix that. And this one has a little bit of a divot there. I don't know if you can quite see that on that camera, but we'll fix that as well. Otherwise, these are looking pretty good. So you just take the heat gun, you'll put it on a low setting. You could do a high setting, but it melted a little too quickly, and you don't want to get really past that first layer of the candle. So we're just going to melt the top real quick. Okay, so that didn't take much. This one, you can sort of see the little holes there. They will eventually fill in with the melted wax around it. It's okay if your wick leans off to the side, or it's just because it had gotten hot from the heat gun, and the wax melted off of the wick, and that's okay because we're going to be trimming it down anyway, so that's just fine. This one has already begun to harden a little bit. It's going to be glossy. If your candles sit on your shelf or sit for a little while before somebody purchases it, that's okay. All you have to do right before you sell, there'll be probably a little bit of frosting. I've noticed from this particular brand of wax that we use that sometimes if the candles do sit for a little bit, there is a little bit of frosting that starts to form. All you have to do is take the heat gun to it, heat it up a bit, and that frosting goes away and becomes nice and shiny again. And then it also lets off some of that aroma from your fragrance oil, so that's kind of nice too. So once these have hardened and dried all the way, we will trim our wick down and we will begin to label. Let's talk about labeling while this continues to harden. We get our labels from Online Labels. They're based out of Florida. We are based out of California, so it literally takes less than a week to get here. So if we ordered it, you know, on a Monday or a Tuesday, it might be here by that following Saturday, or possibly that next Monday. But it is within a week that they are here. Their shipping time is really fast, and we usually get exactly what we're looking for for labels that we want to use for our product. Sorry about that. Our jars, the width here where we put a side label is really hard to find that particular label, so we just went the size up and we cut our labels. I don't know if you can see here where we sort of cut our labels. So we kind of scoot the design up, and then we cut that bottom part to fit our vessel nicely. It's got a rounded top and a rounded bottom, so sometimes if the label is just a little bit too tall, it will try to bubble up around the top and the bottom of our vessels. But let's go ahead and trim one of these wicks here that are ready to go. So when you're trimming the wick, you don't want to trim the wick too far down, because when you light the candle, the melted wax will overtake that wick, and then you won't have a wick to burn. So you want to make sure that it's still long enough to burn, but you don't want it to be too long. So about like that is good. You see that there? So don't throw away your cut off piece of your wick, because you can use this for future products. You can use it for like tea light candles or sample candles. So hang on to that and you can use that another time. With these labels that we purchased from Online Labels, they have a design program called Maestro that comes with your purchase of your label. They will give you a code to put in on the Maestro design program that will give you free use of their Maestro program for 1 year. I don't know if it's called Maestro or Maestro, but gives it to you for free for 1 year. Then you can design everything on that program for your product. We don't use the Maestro program to design our products, but we do use it for putting our designs onto their label sizes that we can then print out. We use Canva to design all of our labels. They just have a little bit more variety to choose from when it comes to graphics and fonts and things like that. This is our candle label. For the side, we have put it on there. And then we'll do the top. Online Labels has a lot of different sizes of labels that you can choose from. They also have different types of labels. So you can get clear labels, transparent labels, you can get white labels, glossy. You can get them for your inkjet printer or your laser ink printer. That is it for candle making today. It is that easy. If you have any questions, please comment below. Also hit the subscribe button and the notification so you can get our latest products that we have put out.